Hello aspirants, welcome to Shankaran IAS. This is Charita. To have an in-depth analysis about demographic dividend, we are welcoming Dr. Harnath Reddy sir. Hello sir.
Hi, Charita.
Demographic dividend has been in the news continuously. Why it has been in the news sir?
See, the topic of demographic dividend has been in the news for the last 1 decade. The reason why I say so is if you take the economic survey document starting from 2015-16, so from then till now, including the recent economic survey of 2024-25, every economic survey document in one or the other chapter, it has laid emphasis on the concept of demographic dividend. So that's the reason why I say that the topic has been continuously in the news for one or the other reason in every major policy document of both the union and the state governments. And in my opinion, the topic of demographic dividend has got a lot of relevance for the next 3 to 4 decades. This topic continues to be relevant, and I appreciate you for picking the right topic for debate today because there are several students who are taking the UPSC Group 1 mains exam in the first week of May. So I expect this is one topic which has got huge potential to appear in the general essay. That doesn't mean that it will come for sure, but it has got a lot of potential. It should come if the examiner is reasonably informed about the importance of this topic. This is a topic which can be picked up for the essay question in the APPSC Group 1 mains exam.
Then what are the challenges in reaping in demographic dividend?
So even before we take up the challenges of reaping demographic dividend, or taking advantage of demographic dividend. What is this concept of demographic dividend? So if you take United Nations Population Fund, it has given a definition for demographic dividend. So this United Nations Population Fund says demographic dividend, it refers to economic growth potential resulting from an increase in the share of working age population. India has witnessed a rapid decline in the fertility rates, total fertility rate. What is total fertility rate? See, total fertility rate, it refers to the average number of children which a woman will give birth to in her entire reproductive span. So, in any country, if there is a rapid decline in the total fertility rates, there will be a sudden increase in the bulge of the working age population. That's what we say demographic dividend. So, in any country, if the dependent population is less compared to the working age population, and what is dependent population? All the children who are less than 15 years of age, all the senior citizens who are above 65 years of age, they come under the dependent population. And the people who are in the age group of 15 to 65 years, they come in the working age population. Today in India, we have around 67% of the total population in the working age, and the rest is the dependent population. In any country, if the proportion of the working age population is more than the dependent population, that country theoretically is going to witness a very high economic growth rate for several decades. That's where India was in now, and that's why we say that India has a huge opportunity to take advantage of population. But as I said, more number of people in the working age population is not merely an asset for the country. It all depends upon the quality of the people who are in the working age. If the governments don't spend enough money on the nutrition, on the quality of health of the population, on the quality of education which is delivered to the working age population, and also the skills of the people who are in the working age, all those they matter. And if you see the present situation in India, even today, in terms of malnutrition, India has got a very big burden. So the proportion of malnourished in this country is very high. We are worse than even the poorest countries in sub-Saharan Africa. I am making this comment keeping in mind the comment made by Manmohan Singh. Long back, Manmohan Singh himself has said, in India, the burden of malnutrition is worse compared to sub-Saharan African countries, and it is a national shame. How does malnutrition affect the productivity of the working age population? See, malnutrition will bring down the ability to fight that disease, even among the children and also the women. Malnutrition in India is very high among the children and also the women. So, if they are not provided nourishment properly, their learning outcomes will get affected. Their ability to fight the disease will come down, which means they cannot participate in economic activity, which means that they cannot contribute effectively to economic growth. So we need to focus much on nutrition, which we are trying to do, but we have not addressed the problem till now. So we are not quite successful. We had a program called ICDS, which has been under implementation for the last 4 decades. but we have not made any frontal attack on the problem of malnutrition, which means there is seriously something wrong with the way we are implementing this program. Then when it comes to health, in India we are spending around 1.5% on health, public health, both the central government and the state governments. But the ideal requirement is 3 to 4%. Now we all speak about universal health coverage. So to put it simple, it means health for all. So to realize the goal of health for all, we need to spend at least 3 to 4% of GDP, but we are not doing that. We are spending only 1.5% to 2%. With this low spending on health, we are not able to increase the health of the population. And there is a link between health of the population and economic growth. There is a lot of research evidence which has proved this beyond reasonable doubt. So if the health of the population improves, economic growth will improve. But unless you spend more on public health, the health of the population will not increase. That's one challenge. Then when it comes to education, today we are spending 3% of GDP on education. But the ideal requirement is 6 to 8% of GDP. But we are better than health. So with the present spending on education, making the goal of education for all and the education which is a qualitative again becomes a problem. So without spending much on education, we cannot take advantage of population. Then when it comes to skilling, as I said in the earlier topic of Vikasit Bharat, according to one estimate between 2020 and 30, every year we are going to witness an addition of 97 lakh people to the labor force every year in the decade of 2020 and 2030. And between 2030 and 2040, every year, we are going to add 42 lakh people to the labor force. But what is our ability to skill the people? Our existing capacity to skill the population is not in tune with the demand of the requirement. So without adequate skilling, we cannot take advantage of population. So these are several challenges in taking advantage of population. We are not having the right progress with respect to nutrition, health, education, and skill development. It's not only that. Even when it comes to unless we have quality infrastructure in place, unless we focus on innovation, unless we focus on research and development, unless we focus on labor reforms, unless we focus on labor intensive sectors, we can't create more number of jobs to absorb the additions to the labor force. These are all the challenges which lie before Indian Republic to really take advantage of population.
Then do the regional variations in fertility deaths
Infertility rates.
rates provide an opportunity for demographic dividend?
See, in India, all the 28 states in India, they are not at the same level of socio-economic development. If you take the states in southern India and western India, they are relatively more developed. States in North India, Eastern India, Northeast India, they are relatively backward. And this is going to be a huge advantage for India in the upcoming decades. Now, as there is a debate on delimitation, southern states are really worried if Lok Sabha and legislative assemblies are reorganized on the basis of the delimitation on the basis of the upcoming census, southern states representation in the Lok Sabha will come down. That's the worry of the southern states. But there is a counter argument to this. So, as the southern states and western states, as they are in the early stages of demographic transition, once they become developed in the coming 2 decades, they are going to face labor shortages. By the same time, states in North India, Eastern India will be having surplus labor. So they will be in a position to provide the surplus labor to the southern states. This is a complementarity between the developed states and the underdeveloped states. That's why there is an argument. Why the northern states have to be punished now because of their higher fertility rates today? It is not necessary to punish them because it's going to be an added advantage to India. Because if there are regional variations in the fertility decline, this demographic dividend will be available for the extended period. So for 4 to 5 decades, the opportunity of demographic dividend will be available for India. So it should not be seen as a disadvantage. Regional variations in the fertility decline will provide an extended window of the opportunity of demographic dividend. It will really help India to have sustained higher economic growth rates over an extended period, making the goal of Vikasit Bharat much more easy.
What are the policy changes required to demographic dividend?
See, many experts they say that in the coming decades, the percentage of the population who are in the elementary age group, that segment is going to witness decline. So we're going to have less number of people in the elementary age, which means We don't need to build new schools. In the existing schools, we should focus on consolidation. We should focus on increasing the quality and efficiency. That's why our focus should not be on expansion. Our focus should be on consolidation. That's one thing. Then, with the increase in life expectancy, and we call it as a silver dividend. The elderly age people now have longer life expectancy. So they can continue to work for longer age. That's why many countries in the developed West, including USA and the West European countries, Japan, they have increased the retirement age. So even India should increase the age of retirement so that the pension burden will come down. And we can take the skills and expertise of the people who are in the elderly age group as well. That's one thing which is to be done. Then the southern states and the western states, they are going to witness aging very rapidly, even well before the northern states and eastern states, which means we need to focus more on geriatric care. Geriatric care is something which is a focus on the healthcare needs of the elderly age people. So we need to put in place a geriatric care to take care of people who are joining the aging segment. That's one more focus. And then to increase the labor force participation rate, we need to focus on more labor intensive sectors to create additional jobs. In addition to that, we need to focus heavily on skill development on a massive scale, because I said between 2020 and 30 we need skilling for 97 lakh people every year. Between 2030 and 40 we need skilling for 42 lakh people every year. The existing capacity of skilling is woefully inadequate to meet the requirements of additions to the labor force. So these are the areas where we need to focus on changes in the policies so that we can really take advantage of democracy.
Will demography is dividend or nightmare?
Many experts, they had doubts about whether India will be able to take advantage of population, because if you see the experience of the countries in Southeast Asia, East Asia, well before they are going to witness that population bulge, they have invested heavily on health and education, and they were ready to take advantage of that bulge in working age population. But we have not done that adequately. We have already reached the bulge of increase in working age population. Now we are trying to do spending on health, education, and skill development. So unless we catch up, unless we do these things on war footing, we may miss the best, we may miss the opportunity. So there are genuine fears that if the government of India and all the state governments together don't do these right things in right time with the greater pace, demography, which we feel as an asset to this nation, may become a burden or it may become a nightmare. So it all depends upon how the policies are shaped and implemented in the coming 2 to 3 decades. If right things are done with greater speed, demography will definitely become an advantage. It will be a dividend rather than it will become a nightmare or it will become a big burden for the future of this country. Then if that happens, then there will be a lot of biggest threat to the Indian Republic. If more and more young people join the labor force in lakhs, if they don't find gainful employment, then the peace and stability of India is seriously threatened. That also results in a threat to Indian democracy. That's why the policymakers must be very careful about the policies which they frame, and when it comes to implementation as well, they need to be very serious. Otherwise, the peace and stability and democracy all will be put in danger.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Charith.